Thanks for watching this edition of Labour Rights Education for Education Workers. And in this edition, we take a look at outsourcing of ALT work in the mysterious case of the missing millions and thousands of classes. Now, in 2018, the Fukuoka City Board of Education outsourced the ALT work by tender. By the way, in Fukuoka City Board of Education, they've deemed that ALTs be called native speakers, or NSs. Now, Fukuoka City categorises the ALTs not as teachers, but as a service, and calls for tenders for the service. Now, the dispatch companies tender by submitting their proposals, and the Fukuoka City Board of Education evaluates the proposals, with the best proposal winning the tender. Now, at this point in time, I might add that some of the criteria for evaluation of these proposals is how to deal with absences of ALTs and filling in vacancies for ALTs who quit. Now, the contracts were split into two blocks, and we, through Freedom of Information, got the contracts of each block. The successful tenderer for the East Block was ours, and you can see here that they got the contract worth 144 million yen to teach at 37 schools at a total of 20,125 class hours. Now, the successful bid for the West Block was Interact, and their contract was worth 153 million yen to teach 21,490 class hours at 36 schools. Now, every year, the Fukuoka General Union, through Freedom of Information again, collect the class reports on the contracts, which show the number of classes taught at each school each month, and we tally the total number of these class hours. When we add them up, we find there's a big difference between the number of class hours scheduled and the number actually taught. Now, the union was not the only one to pick up on this. In 2020, the Fukuoka City External Auditor tabled a report on programs conducted by Fukuoka City, and the native speaker outsourcing was put under the auditor's microscope. Now, the auditor also totaled up the number of class hours taught and found that the West Block, Interact, had only completed 81% of scheduled class hours, and in the East Block, ours, not much better, completing only 84%. Of course, the auditor asked why such a shortfall. Now, it seems the Board of Education excuses included native speakers suddenly going home to their country or getting sick, special needs schools only holding classes when the principal requests one. But the auditor went on to state that there should be built-in mechanisms in the dispatch company's proposal to deal with such issues. Also, the fact that special needs schools and special needs schools only taught 209 out of 2,060 scheduled classes shows that the quote does not match the reality. Now, let's do the math and see how much these classes that were scheduled but were not taught were worth. Okay, I'm going to put pen to paper here. Now, in the West Block, the contract was worth 153 million to teach 22,000 classes. That works out to about 6,912 yen per class, but they only taught 18,000, making a shortfall of 4,130 classes not taught. Multiply that by the value of each class, and that's 28 million yen worth of classes not taught, scheduled but not taught in the West Block. Do the same calculation for the East Block, it comes up to 22 million, making it a total of 51,669,988 yen worth of classes scheduled but not taught. Here it is in an Excel file, looking a bit clearer. But also, the Fukuoka General Union checked with the Board of Education through Freedom of Information, and there are no record of any refunds being paid for classes that were scheduled but not taught. Now, let's just stop and think here. the dispatch company still gets paid for thousands of classes which were never taught and get to keep the money slated for those classes. Students are deprived of classes which taxpayers paid for. But as far as we can see, and as no laws have been broken, this is the system. Now, the union wants the Board of Education to directly hire ALTs. And just look what happened if they did. They'd save 51 million in the untaught classes. They'd save 21 million yen in consumption tax, because direct hires are not subject to consumption tax. So that means better paying conditions for the ALTs, more job security for the ALTs, and that would lead them to being more motivated just by cutting out the middleman. However, the sad reality is that the Board of Education does not want to employ ALTs, foreign ALTs, directly. And these Gaijin teachers, NSs, are the only teachers deemed to be a service and procured by tender, like textbook, desks and chalk. Now, my question is this decent work? Is this a decent way to treat a teacher? Here at the union, we demand a new deal for ALTs in Japan. We want to have decent work for all. We demand a new deal. SDGs, number 8, decent work and economic growth. Decent work starts with being treated as a person, not a service. And if you'd like to help us in getting a better deal for ALTs, please get in touch with the Fukuoka General Union or the General Union. Thank you for your time.